Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wolf and welcome to a preview of a game called How to Survive 2. This is a game that's currently being developed by a company called Eco Software and has been in early access as of the 30th of October 2015. How to Survive 2 is basically a survival horror action role-playing game. That's pretty much the best way to describe it. It does have a story, and this story takes place several years after the events of the first How to Survive. And the general gist is that the infection is now spread worldwide. Everyone around the world is trying to survive either alone or in groups. And you, the character, find yourself in Louisiana, and your survival chances start by building a safe camp and just becoming a skilled survivalist. So, for me, my experience with the story, it hasn't really felt that immersive or interesting, to be honest. Like, it feels a bit meh. I haven't really found the story is worth getting invested in. They have brought back KOVAC from the original game, which does add some nostalgia for some of the people who have played the first one. But otherwise, if you haven't, I really don't think you're going to get anything out of it either way. So there's a bit of room for improvement. The upside is that the story, as far as I can see, is pretty standalone. You don't actually need to have played the first one to understand what's going on in the second one. In all honesty, I played the first one, and I still don't understand what's going on in the second one. Okay, the music sort of kicked in, so something bad's about to happen. I'm going to get out of this area. Okay, so there are some notable gameplay features that How to Survive 2 has, and first and foremost is that you can create your own character, where you can learn different skills to specialize in as you level up, and you can equip scavenged and handcrafted armor, tools, and weapons. I'm just going to speak to KOVAC here. Let us go and do hot battery. Okay, so before I go further, this is one of the features I wanted to point out a little bit later on, but I'll do it now. You see that you've got a decrease and increase feature. So this basically means you can increase the level of the quest for a higher challenge to get bonus experience points, and you can also decrease it to make it easier if you want. If you look at the bottom panel here, right here, you'll see that if I decrease it, I get 6.5, it's a 24k XP. Or I can do it at my level and I get that experience. It does actually affect the enemies as well, so the higher it is, the harder it is to kill the enemies, basically. But yeah, there is some pretty decent survival mechanics in this. So you've got you do have to find water, food, and shelter, and obviously you got to talk to the unconventional locals that, you know, help you make your way around. I'm not too sure what is considered an unconventional local, considering the scenario that we're in. This is a zombie apocalypse. Anyone that's a local is technically unconventional to begin with. There's a challenge which is basically called Elite Quest. So this is for people that really want a challenge out of the game. If you're finding that increasing the levels are not hard enough, this basically means that you have one shot to finish your objective, and if you die, then you get taken back to your camp. Oh, I actually just shot the wrong guy there, but that's okay. They also said that there are randomized events in this, but I haven't, not randomized events, but randomized environments, and I have yet to encounter these environments. I sort of found that they've been a bit repetitive in a way. Like there was no real difference for me, especially when I repeated these areas. I'm not sure, so I don't know whether this is for a particular type of game mode, but I haven't found them as randomized as they said. They said there's a new, deeper crafting system as well, and this basically allows you to use items, materials, and you can use them to create hundreds of items, tools, and weapons to upgrade your character as well as your camp. So I gotta find a way out of here. I sort of already done this little level before, but I messed up and I didn't bring a screwdriver with me, so I couldn't open the bonnet of the car that I needed to get the battery out of. So that was kind of irritating. Let's get some gory kills going on here. So yeah, like I said, you do have a camp. You can set up, upgrade, and protect your camp as you want. By that I mean you've got a wide variety of traps, barricades, obstacles, and you can set up workshops that provide you with new recipes that will allow you to create more materials and items that you can, again, use to help boost your camp. There is a multiplayer mode as well. This was something that stood out for me, especially because the multiplayer in this, like, it has a few sub-modes, if you want to call them that are pretty diverse. I mean, the first general gist of it is that you can meet new survivors, and you can create, like, a public camp, and you can set, like, you've got your own little chest that you can obviously put your own stuff in to prevent other people from taking that stuff. What did I just shoot at? What am I shooting at? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you can set up the camp and invite people to join it. You can actually have up to 16 players access your camp online with about 4 people that you can play with simultaneously. Woof, I didn't notice that guy there. Whoa, 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 hey. I like this kill thing. Look. He stomps on him and then... Oh, I thought he was going to put the arrow in his head. He didn't do it this time. That's okay. But yeah, you can have 4 people playing online in co-op, but there's also a local co-op in this as well, and that sort of really stood out for me. I think once you put local co-op in, that's a definite plus. I'm just going to use a bandage because I am pretty low on health. I'll use another one, why not? But on top of this is another thing that stood out super, super well. And that's... Well, hey there. And that's that you've got your... Players in local co-op can actually join in an online game. Oh my god. I did not expect him to be there. I think that's cool because if you've got someone that you're playing with locally and you've got like friends that might be in another state or something, you can play with them. So it's not just either local co-op or online. You've got the option of going local co-op and online at the same time if you want. And I think that's really cool. But what's even better is that it's sort of works in a way that the teamwork... It allows players to contribute to a bigger, better camp and perform co-op actions and strategies. But that's really cool because you can have people playing while you're offline and they can be contributing without the need for you to be there. So that's a really nice feature that they've got going there. The game does have a day and night cycle as well with weather conditions, and I found that was pretty good because it actually adds to the atmosphere, especially when the game goes into like storm mode, if you want to call it that. Ooh, no, bad doggy, bad. Okay, I like those dogs getting close. But yeah, that was really good. It added to the atmosphere, especially at night. Nighttime does feel a little bit scary, and it does get a little bit harder to find things, which is cool. You can also kill zombies with finishes and gory effects, as you saw me doing, and I think that was a cool thing to do. I kind of like doing it. See if I can do it on this guy. So it's slightly varied. Sometimes he'll do a stomp. Sometimes he'll hack at their heads to chop them off. There are other times where if I've got the bow, I don't know if I can do it with this. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So you saw how he just shot him in the face with an arrow, which was pretty cool. So yeah, it's not as diverse as it could be, but diverse enough. So that was cool. Inventory weight can also hold you down. That was something that stood out a bit for this. So there's been quite a few survival games here and that have come out, and they've sort of just let you carry as much as you want, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. That's okay, but it adds to the survival mechanics because you do have to pick what you want to hang on to. You have to prioritize stuff. So you'll notice that if you look at my inventory here at the bottom left, see I've got can of peas, bottle of water, like I've only got 2. I haven't got much because that actually affects your weight. So you can't just go and pick up as much, you know, you can't just carry like 50 bottles of water. I think 1 bottle of water on its own, whereas it's like, yeah, it's like, wow, 2 of them is 1.5 kilos, so it'll add up as you add stuff to your inventory. Another feature I wanted to note is not necessarily an extremely valued feature, probably not for the whole community, but mainly for people that do watch Twitch and things like that, and that is Twitch integration. So I don't know, you can see it. I've got it here, but I'm not going to connect. Oh, there's another thing I've got to point out later on. Pausing the game actually does not pause it. But yeah, they added the Twitch integration to basically allow people to use commands where if they're watching a particular person play, they can, you know, set off a horde of zombies, they can set off a particular type of zombie and things like that. So I think that's really nice, especially not just for streamers, but if you're somebody who likes watching a particular streamer and you want to suggest a game to them that everyone can get involved with, then this has got the feature for that, and I think that's really good. I think it's nice that more and more games are starting to implement this sort of Twitch integration. Okay, now let me I'm gonna set that off and I'm gonna run like a bitch. Let's just stay here. Let's just stay here for a little bit, because I don't want to be there when the hordes of zombies come running in. But yeah, while we wait for the zombies to sort of start their little party, I'm going to talk about my gameplay experience because... Oh lordy, run away. Run away. Just run. Just go full bitch mode. So yeah, first of all, character customization. I found that it was actually pretty limited, but it was better than nothing. It's just, I know it's not the type of game, holy cow. There's really a lot of them coming, isn't there? No, don't run at me. Dude's full running at me with an arrow in his head. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just preset, so it was like, oh, here's your character, pick this, pick that, and there you go. You've got your character, there's your customization. Like I said, better than nothing. Ooh, I just finished the quest. Oh, hey, okay. It's one of those diverse enemies that I was going to discuss. But yeah, the pause, as I was about to say, pausing, as you notice, doesn't actually pause the game, and it's the same for when you open your inventory. And this is in single player as well. So that's kind of a little bit irritating. I mean, I can understand with the inventory, that's not so bad, but with just generally pausing the game, it's a bit like, well, come on, you know, you should be able to pause it. Again, multiplayer, you sort of don't expect that. It does have some good survival mechanics. I found that it wasn't overbearing, it wasn't too simple, but it wasn't too complex either. You do have like your eating, drinking, and base building. Like you'll notice in the top left, just above my character, I've got that food icon and the drinking icon. Those will degrade over time, so food and water isn't just something that you sort of, you know, you drink or eat just to replenish some of your health. You actually have to do it for nutrition, basically. How thirsty am I? 69%. So let's get a bottle of water in us and eat some corned beef. Who doesn't like corned beef? I don't, actually. so I sort of burnt through all my food. But yeah, here's the character customization. You can actually change all that stuff on the fly, but I won't do that for now. The atmosphere is something I wanted to point out. You'll notice that my character's running really, really slow right now. But the atmosphere in this is actually really, really good. It's not like Dying Light level of awesome, but I found that it was close enough to keep you immersed in the game. I did try online, and I found that... I mean, it wasn't bad, but I found that it was annoying because it actually lacked... That's not where I wanted to go. It actually lacked a proper chat functionality. So, it was sort of like, well, how do I chat to the people without voice chat? I'm sort of stuck, and that was a little bit irritating. Not terrible, but it sort of gets in the way if you want to play with people, but you might not feel like using a microphone or anything like that. So I'm just gonna fill my inventory with some of this stuff. So you see, the inventory is just a tiny bit tedious to work with. But yeah, the other thing I noticed was that sadly your character doesn't actually get transferred over. By that I mean you've got a separate character for online and a separate character for single player, which wasn't... It's kind of not that great. I would have liked if they let you keep the character that you've got in single player and use them in online. The other thing is that enemies I found were actually pretty diverse. You would have seen a few different enemies here and there as I've been playing, and I thought that was pretty good, because you've got those fat exploding dudes, you've got dogs that run at you, you've got zombies that run at you, enemies that vomit that acid, and there's probably more, because I'm only about roughly 6 hours in, so I haven't had a chance to experience a lot of the other areas. I assume that there would be more enemies here and there, and they did add a recent update where they added some more enemies. Overall though, I found the gameplay feels fairly repetitive, especially in single player. I reckon in multiplayer you'll probably be able to get by, but even then I reckon it'll be pretty repetitive to some extent. Oh, what? My trunk is under attack. Holy cow. Okay. That's the first ever attack I've experienced in this game. So I've got to find some copper wires. So yeah, this is one of the workshops you'll see here. You've got your crafting, like you can craft different weapons and stuff like that. I want to craft this protector thing because it's a better bow than the one I'm using. I just need some copper wire that I just can't seem to find. And then you've got your armory. Well, not your armory, this is more like your accessories is what they call it, but you can craft armor and things like that to obviously help out your character. And you've got weapon mods over here. So you got like your bow sight, low scope, all that sort of crap, which you can add. And the customization is pretty simple-ish. Like you can just click on here, go customization interface, and you can see all the mods for that particular weapon in this area here, and you just drag them across. It's pretty simple. Okay, so moving on to the visuals. Now here's the storm I was telling you about. You can hear the thunder and stuff going off in the background. It is nuts, because it really does add to that already eerie atmosphere. But yeah, visuals are great. Like you can see as I'm playing, they're pretty detailed, and it looks good enough for the type of game that it is, because it is utilizing that sort of top-down kind of view, so you don't really need the graphics to be that detailed. I mean, that's as far as you can sort of zoom in. They're not like 100% perfect, but they're good. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Item highlighting, I found, does need a little bit of work, because there are situations where I'll go up to an item, or I'll sort of go to an area to loot, and I sort of just run around spamming A because I can't tell what I can and can't pick up. But yeah, that was one of the issues I had. Objects and buildings fade to give you a better view, as you'll notice. This was something that I really liked, but it still needs work to improve. I think it still hinders your line of sight here and there. I would have liked if it gave you, see how you still see some of the trees to the left and right there that aren't moving away until I move this way. It's a very limiting field of view. I think they should have just got rid of it altogether until I move out like this far or something. I don't know, it's hard to explain. But yeah, I think the line of sight is a bit limited, and that needs to be fixed. In relation to the camera, I do think that it should give you much better angles, because you've really only got the one angle. Like I would rather, instead of, when I do something like this, I want to be able to turn around the actual camera, not just the character. Now, I haven't had any performance issues as well, so that was a definite plus. I found that the game ran fairly well, and this was on a 980 Ti, which is pretty expected. You can see in the top left corner, I'm getting 144 frames per second, and this is with VSync on, which is pretty good. With VSync turned off, I actually get like 300 frames, so that was a bit odd. Not that that's any use, but I mean, that's some decent-ish optimization, I would say. From what I'm aware of, or not fully aware of, is that this might actually work with an onboard graphics card. So I'm not 100% sure, because I saw the most recent update they released said, one of the features said Intel HD 3000 optimization. So that's a third generation Intel graphics card. It's not a dedicated one, it's just an onboard one. Gonna make this one nice and easy, because I cannot be bothered with the difficult one. But yeah, so it might work with onboard graphics, but I'm not 100% sure. So you might have to double check that if you decide to play that. It's not a very resource hungry game. Oh yeah, they're dying in one shot with this. So I'm not going to get a lot of EXP for this one, but that's okay. Now, moving on to audio. So the audio was pretty decent. The ambience actually complements the visuals and the atmosphere. Get away from me. Jesus Christ. That was a bit of a scare, that one was. Hello. Any of you going to come at me, or? Okay, maybe not. Yeah, it can sound a little bit repetitive, especially when you hear the constant gunfire going off in the background in some areas. That was a little bit irritating, but overall, I mean, it's good. I was pretty happy with the sound effects as well as the ambience. Music does play, as you will have heard in the background here and there as I've been playing, and like it doesn't play all the time. Like you'll notice here, there's no music, and this actually allows you to take in the atmosphere. That was really good. It will kick in during really intense scenes, and that's also good because it sort of lets you know that there's something going down. But the problem is it can end abruptly, and I sort of thought that was a bit, not an annoying thing, just sort of like takes you out of the immersion a little bit. Not by much. Now, another thing that I found that was an issue with the audio, the voice acting only applies to KOVAC. There's no voice acting for the other characters, and that's going to be a little bit annoying. Not necessarily a massive deal breaker. I just think the developers might want to look into implementing some voice acting for the other characters. Okay, so moving on to the boring stuff. This is around about that point in the video where we do. So I'm going to go back to camp where I'm nice and safe. So first and foremost, an issue I noticed with the menu, there is no internal feedback feature. Okay, this isn't my camp, but okay. So if you go to, like, you look here, there's nothing for feedback. Unless they added something, nothing for feedback. And you will notice as well, I am playing with the controller. You need to move the cursor around to actually select what you want. Instead of just being able to press up and down on a D-pad or something to select these, you have to move a cursor around. Not a very big issue, but for those of you who are planning on using a controller, you're probably best keeping a keyboard and mouse nearby in case you find it easier, because look, you can move that around a lot quicker, you can select that stuff, whereas with the controller it's not as responsive for obvious reasons. And they need a search function for loot, because the filter is okay, but sometimes you need to find stuff. Look at that menu alone. There's a lot of loot a lot of junk and materials that you can get in this. They really need a search function. See, look at this is a logbook showing all the loot I've collected in this play session and the last, I think. So that's pretty crazy. The inventory, as you see here, it's pretty easy to understand what's going on. Like, you can obviously see weapons, ammo, equipment, food, health, and then miscellaneous. But it's not overly user-friendly. Like, it could use a little bit of improving. As you saw when I was moving stuff to and from the inventory into the trunk, I sort of had to click something, drag it across, and then I had to select the amount of items I wanted. It's crap. It's the nicest way of putting it. It needs improving. So it needs to be a lot more user-friendly, a lot more controller-friendly, so that whether you're using keyboard, mouse, or controller, it's quick and easy. I mean, even dragging something across and selecting with the mouse and keyboard can get a bit tedious at times. The options menu as a whole is very lackluster. You can see here, there's no video settings, there's just something for music, sound, and voice, which is okay. So they've got the audio options. There's map transparency, which was, again, nice. Interface size, which, whoa. That doesn't really... I don't really know why would you want to do that, though? That's a little bit redundant. I've never actually played with that feature, but yeah. You got display damage and keyboard controller double. I would not recommend disabling this because I did that and it sort of messed around with things like you see now I've got two cursors here. I don't want that. Let's leave that alone. But yeah, I didn't actually discuss the controls in the gameplay. I sort of just realized that the controls are pretty straightforward. You've got your X to attack, which is sort of your main melee sort of thing. I can hold it and it'll do like a power attack. If I hold it on this, he'll just kick. So Y is to switch my weapons, as you see here. B is to bring up your inventory. A is to interact with things like that. Up does nothing at this stage. Down brings up my camp menu. Left and right switches my little inventory in the bottom left. That's sort of like your quick access inventory. The right mouse button is to reload, which is nice. And if I push left, right, up, down, or whatever on the right analog stick, it allows me to aim my bow. And then left analog stick to move around. LB is to use the inventory items, and L2 is to sprint. If I hold it down without looking in any direction, it'll actually just start running. And right trigger is to shoot, or I think even attack. Oh dear, that was a bit messy. But yeah, I think RB is sort of to bring up like a crummy chat thingy, which I think you can use in multiplayer, but it's not really ideal. So the game has been updated pretty well. It started off being updated like nearly every week or so, and that was pretty good. Whereas now it's sort of slowed down to more of like a monthly sort of thing. Oh, I hear you. I hear you coming for me, buddy. Yeah, you dead boy. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't ceased updating, which is good. The most recent update was last month, and that's where I've sort of come back to it and found there are a few little features here and there they've added. And it's currently going for about $20 on Steam at the moment. As I said, I played about roughly 6 hours of the game. Keep in mind that this 6 hours includes the fact that I needed to pull in as much of the game as I could so that I could create this preview and present what the game has to offer. I reckon at the very, very least, this game is definitely worth following. It does have some sort of innovation. It does have some uniqueness. I mean, it's a survival horror game. There's not too much different between the whole lot out there, but it does have its own thing going for it. But as I said, being in early access, it doesn't have a great deal going for it at the moment. But, I mean, if you've got some mates to play with and you do want to have an online or just a co-op survival game, I may even try this with Louis at some point. But, I mean, even then, it's probably worth buying. But for the time being, again, if you're weary about early access and keeping in mind that the content isn't that great, probably best not to purchase it now. But I see a lot of potential for this. There is a lot of room for improvement, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of room for improvement means that there's a lot more to come, and that's a very big silver lining. Not a silver lining, it's a very big plus, because the game as it is right now, there are times where it doesn't feel like an early access there are times where it doesn't feel like an early access game. So that was another plus I found with this. But yeah, definitely worth following. Links will be in the description if you want to check out more information about the game. Please do so. And I would also like to thank Echo Software. I'm not 100% sure if I'm pronouncing that name right, and I apologize if I am. But I think Eco Software, because it's spelled E-K-O. Because we say like, we've got like koala here, so it's like Echo for me. I don't know, Echo, whatever. But yeah, anyways, I'd like to thank Eco Software and 505 Games for allowing me to produce this video, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for watching as well. And as usual, I will see you in the next video.